I would not say the same, at least on paper, of Nebraska and Colorado. You never know. I think there's a hope in Lincoln that perhaps this team becomes a dark horse with a really good start and gets themselves into that conversation. They would have to win this game for that to happen. This is a series Nebraska has owned historically. They're old Big 8 and Big 12 rivals with Colorado, more than twice as many wins as the Buffs in the head-to-head. Of course, they used to play every year, just the fourth meeting since 2010. It's Colorado which has had its way recently, winning each of the last three matchups. They have never won four in a row. It's a matchup of second-year coaches, Deion Sanders and Matt Rule.
I don't think there's any secrets here about what they're capable of. You know, they've got dynamic playmakers. They've rebuilt the offensive line. They're big, they're physical, and defensively, you know, they play man coverage. They pressured a bunch in the second half, you know, to slow down North Dakota State, and they play really, really hard. I mean, Warren Sapp's their D-line coach. You know, they play really hard up front, so they fly around. So they've got really good players, and they've got a really well thought out scheme and well-coached team.
You attack weaknesses. I don't know if you attack inexperience. If that's a weakness, so be it. But the kid made some darn good throws, some pretty good plays. They did some consistent things that we knew they would do within their offense. Phenomenal game. I mean, it started out, you know, back and forth a little bit, but they went ahead and did what they needed to do. But I love what he showed in his first college game ever.
Deion Sanders obviously talking about Raiola at quarterback there for Nebraska. To me, this game is about proof of concept for Nebraska, right? Again, maybe it does end up having CFP implications. We don't know. But what it does have is major implications for the fan base, right? This notion that, hey, Colorado's second-year coach, we're a second-year coach, didn't go well last year in Boulder. They had all this momentum and craziness and hype surrounding them. But now it's a year later, and Nebraska got its quarterback in Raiola, and they feel like they're ready to take that next step. And I feel like for the fan base, again, you could win every other game except for this one. But this one just feels like you got to win it to prove that you're headed in the right direction.
And it's the importance of winning this game, and it's true for both teams. And that's why I find, you know, for the first team to make a mistake in this game, how do they overcome that? Because both of these programs have high expectations, to your point, this season. You know, Colorado has talked about how they're the Super Bowl on everyone's schedule. They're setting those expectations. We expect to see a year two jump in the Matt Rule era, and especially after the way Raiola played last week. But mistakes will get made, and how do each team respond? And I look at, when you talk about proof of concept, last year's game was a perfect example because the slow down and explosive Colorado offense, and Shedeur Sanders is a top 10 pick. You have to win in the trenches. You have to control the ball offensively, and the run game looked really explosive last week. And then your defensive line has to get to the quarterback, which they did last year. I think they had 8 sacks, 58 yards net rushing. Yeah. But what killed them, they had 4 turnovers. So it's the same recipe as it's always been. I just feel a lot more confident that Raiola isn't going to turn the ball away, even though he's a young freshman.
That, to me, is the key in this game because it does feel like Nebraska ought to be able to move the ball. Their defense is their strength. Look, Shedeur Sanders threw for more yards than any quarterback in the power conferences. In the opener, he's tremendous. Hunter is great. He seems to push off on a lot of those 50-50 balls.
I pushed off too, as long as they don't call it.
He got the calls, yeah, absolutely. But he's fabulous. He might be the best player in America. He certainly is talented on both sides of the ball. Horn's a really good wide receiver. They're going to put up points and yards. I think for Nebraska, it's do you not turn the ball over? Because Colorado, there are only 3 teams that gave up more yards per game than Colorado did last year. This is a porous defense, but they forced turnovers. They forced the third most in the Pac-12 a season ago. Obviously, they've changed conferences with the dissolution of the Pac-12, but the concept remains like there's risk and reward there. You're going to be able to gash them, but you cannot hand them the ball back with that explosive offense.
And that's why this is such a perfect game for Nebraska, a benchmark to find out where they are. I know it's been emphasized. It's been emphasized all spring. I see Matt Rule sending guys on a lap in practice if they turn the ball. So it's been emphasized and talked about consistently. And I really do believe this, that Nebraska has taken more strides as a team than Colorado. if they avoid giving the ball away. So if Nebraska can be okay punting the ball and avoiding those turnovers, I think they can control this game and really slow down Colorado. But a lot of that falls on the shoulders of Raiola. You just listen to that kid talk in press conferences. You listen to his teammates talk about him. It's hard for me to not buy into him. It's those subtle cues and the way he carried himself in the game last week in his first start in a big moment. He looked poised. He's making checks at the line of scrimmage, making 2 checks at the line of scrimmage, step up into the pocket and ripping a sidearm throw, just like Pat Mahomes, just like I believe it's his godfather, Matthew Stafford, too. He's put some amazing things on tape, and now, again, in the biggest moment, that's when your biggest players need to be at their best. That's what he's going to do this weekend.
It is going to be a big moment. They're honoring the '94 national championship team at Nebraska, hearkening back to those glory days. It'll be the 398th straight sellout. It just feels like this fan base is waiting to explode. And